Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into what might be the highest stakes matchmaking mission in history. I mean, literally, the entire fate of a nation rested on finding just the right person.
So imagine this. A whole nation's future hangs on a single marriage. How in the world do you find the right person? Well, that was the massive problem facing a very old Abraham. You see, this divine promise he had of a great nation, it was all hanging by a thread. And that thread was his unmarried son, Isaac. And believe me, the clock was ticking.
All right, so a promise at risk. Yeah, with time running out, Abraham knew he couldn't just leave this up to chance. So he kicks off this super high stakes mission, and let me tell you, it came with a very specific, and I mean very important, set of rules.
The stakes here were incredibly high. The promise of an entire nation was basically on the verge of collapsing. Think about it. Abraham's old, his beloved wife Sarah is gone, and this whole covenant God made with him, it all comes down to finding the right wife for Isaac to keep the family line going.
And this, right here, this quote, this gets to the absolute heart of the mission. Abraham makes his most trusted servant take this really serious oath. And the instructions couldn't be clearer. Under no circumstances could Isaac marry a local Canaanite woman. Nope. Instead, the servant had to travel hundreds of miles back to Mesopotamia to find a wife from Abraham's own relatives.
All right, the camel test. Okay, so the servant sets out on this incredible journey. But his plan wasn't just to, find a nice girl. No, he comes up with a test so specific, so detailed, that if it worked, it could only be seen as a direct sign from God.
Can you just picture this? The servant leaves with a whole caravan loaded with treasure, basically a traveling dowry, and heads out into the desert. He's going to a city he probably hasn't seen in decades. And he took 10 camels. Now, 10 might seem like a random number, but trust me, this little detail is absolutely critical to the whole story. These camels are the key to everything. So he gets to a well just outside the city, and he prays for a really, really specific sign. Like we see in the quote, he's not just asking for a kind person. He's setting up a test for some truly extraordinary, over-the-top generosity. So here's the test he came up with, broken down into two parts. First, he'll ask a young woman for a drink of water. Simple enough, right? But the second part, that's the real test. The chosen one won't just give him a drink. She'll also offer to water all 10 of his camels. And let's be clear, watering 10 thirsty camels after a long journey, that is a massive, physically exhausting act of service. So, a heroine appears. And this right here is where the story just gets incredible. Get this. Before the servant has even finished praying, this young woman named Rebekah shows up, and what she does next just shatters every expectation. So the servant just asks her for a little drink of water, and boom, without even hesitating, Rebekah nails the first part of the test. She's polite, she's quick, she's ready to serve.
But then she goes so much further. The text uses these really active words to describe her. She hasted, she ran, to show just how much energy she had. She's running back and forth to the well, showing this radical hospitality by watering all 10 camels. We are talking about drawing and carrying gallons and gallons of water. It's a huge task. And the servant? He's just stunned. He's watching all this happen completely silent. He's just watching, trying to process that he is witnessing the direct, immediate, and frankly unbelievably perfect answer to the very specific prayer he just made moments before. Okay, next up, Rebekah's journey of faith. You see, this story is so much more than just a successful matchmaking mission. What we're really seeing here is the rise of a new hero, a matriarch, who is absolutely essential for the next generation. So, why is Rebekah's story so incredibly important? Well, it's because the narrative very deliberately, and I think beautifully, paints her as a spiritual successor to Abraham himself. She's basically his counterpart. And this is what I find so fascinating. Look at the parallels here between Abraham and Rebekah. You have Abraham's journey of faith, right? He's called to leave his land and family. Well, what about Rebekah? She's brought from the land of my family. Abraham journeys from Mesopotamia to Canaan. So does Rebekah. He leaves behind his brother Nahor's family. She leaves behind the exact same family. Her journey is this perfect mirror of his, which really sets her up as this crucial, faithful female partner in the covenant. So when it came time to make the final decision, her family was kind of wishy-washy. They were hesitating. The decision falls to her. And her answer? Just two simple words. I will go.
It is so powerful. That is her defining moment of faith. It's a declaration that completely echoes Abraham's own obedience, and it totally cements her place in this epic story.
And that brings us to the next generation. With that single, powerful act of faith from Rebekah, the generational torch is officially passed. The future of that divine promise is finally safe.
So, Rebekah makes that long journey back with the servant, and as she does, you can see the two threads of the story, this desperate human search for a wife and God's divine promise of a nation, they finally weave together. And this final verse really brings it all home. It shows us it wasn't just some political arrangement. It was a union that brought real love and healing to Isaac, who was still grieving his mother Sarah. It's about the continuation of a lineage, for sure, but it's also personal, ensuring that God's covenant would move forward into the next generation.
So the lineage is secured, but is a peaceful future guaranteed? Not so fast. This amazing story solves one huge problem, finding a wife for Isaac. But in solving that problem, it perfectly sets the stage for the incredibly complex and often messy family drama that's going to define the very next chapter of this story.